You are about to see the first public exhibition of an entirely new form of entertainment. We call it Cinerama.
Seattle Cinerama is closing for renovations, but hasn't said when it will reopen.
Deep gratitude to the Paul G. Allen estate. Our beloved Cinerama has been acquired by SIFF.
All this equipment is in great working order. 3 popcorn poppers, because 3's not enough.
I like the residual, the chocolate smell is residual.
I know.
Yeah.
Still there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Boy, it's in great shape.
Yeah. Laser projector.
Awesome. Let's do it. That sounds great.
Yeah, most commercial releases use. Yeah. Oh goodness.
A little more interesting than roll duct tape.
I think it's all just the same.
All right, well, here we are in the Cinerama with Executive Director of SIFF, Tom Mara, for this first of its kind video, All Policy is Local. And I could not be more excited to be here and talk about the imminent reopening of Cinerama, the process that went into the acquisition of the theater, and the plans that SIFF has to preserve and protect this institution that Seattleites really cherish. Yep. But why don't we go way back and start by having you just introduce yourself.
Absolutely.
And talk a little bit about SIFF. And then
Sure.
let's get into the Cinerama.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of my background is actually spent mostly at KEXP. I was the CEO there until I retired last June, and was really fortunate to connect with SIFF, my other keen love I have in terms of the arts, music, and film. And I think within 10 minutes of me arriving in my office, I got my first question. Actually, 2 questions. What are you going to do about the Cinerama? And what about the popcorn, the chocolate popcorn? And I've been trying to answer that question for several months now, as we were having some really important conversations with the Paul Allen estate. And not too long ago, we announced to the world that, in fact, SIFF is acquiring the Cinerama and that we'll be opening it up, reopening our doors this fall. And then coming in to see her now is really special. The first thing you actually sense and actually feel and smell is the chocolate popcorn that was sold for many, many years. And so that scent is still in the walls, and it's kind of a nice reminder of what she had done years past. But this will be important for SIFF, but I've been telling folks, Councilmember, this is even better for the city in terms of bringing additional vibrancy to downtown as we're rebuilding downtown moving forward.
Yeah, why don't we back up a little bit more to talk a bit more about SIFF before we get into the Cinerama, because SIFF isn't just a film festival, and congratulations, by the way, in recently wrapping up the most recent film festival. It was really great to be there on opening night at the Paramount. But SIFF does a lot more year-round and a lot of additional programming. You have a big team. Why don't you talk a little bit more about the other things that SIFF does in the community and some of your year-round activations?
Absolutely. So SIFF has 3 modes of public service. One is quite familiar to folks, and that's the film festival. And the film festival is truly an international film festival. We received more than nearly 6,000 titles to consider for this year's festival. And up until COVID, SIFF had the largest film festival in the world, the number of showings. The second mode of service is the year-round cinemas. We have the 3 screens of the Uptown Theater, we have the Egyptian, we have the 100 seats at the Film Center at Seattle Center, and now we have the 580 seats here at Cinerama. And the third is education, and that is helping young folks between 9 and about 14 doing camps, classes on everything from screenwriting to animation, special effects, editing, camera work. And it's a way for young folks to get exposed to this wonderful medium called film. And I think that's something for us to build upon. When I think about who we serve, I think of three concentric circles. The one in the middle is the film lover and the soon-to-be film lover. Those are the folks we can serve really well. Number two is the emerging filmmaker, because I think we have a responsibility to help steward the next generation of filmmakers. And number three is more broadly, it's the film community / film ecosystem. So both from a community, artistic community point of view, but also from a business development perspective. So when it comes to matters of policy or how we can help further conversations, be a platform for the further development of the film community, film ecosystem, that's part of what we're here for as well. So the film festival, year-round cinema, education, and also playing a role in stewarding the future of film in Seattle.
Yeah, no, and it's really great to get all that out there, because I think there's some people that might be under the impression that SIFF's impact is mostly around this time of year when the actual festival is occurring, but there's multiple theaters, there's workforce training and mentorship and development of the art form that's happening
absolutely
year round. So there's always something you can do to participate and engage with SIFF. So pivoting to how the Cinerama enhances and builds on that mission, I was one of those people who got on you very early about talking about.
I think you were my first meeting ever in my role.
Yeah, well, you weren't even in the role yet.
That's right.
You had been announced, but you hadn't taken over, and we got together at FABAC to talk about this.
Yeah.
And then we got together a couple days later with some of your board leadership last August to talk about this. And it's been a long journey from that to getting to where we are today. But the thing I want to start with is, now that we're in here, it sure looks great. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's ready to roll.
She's in great shape, yeah.
Right? And so why don't you talk a little bit about what that's been like to go through this process of acquiring the theater, the state of the theater, and then what SIFF's plans are? Absolutely.
Well, one thing I could touch on is the extent to which the community has a love affair with Cinerama, and that's something I really came to better understand just within the first few weeks in this new position. I knew of it as my own personal relationship with the Cinerama, but my God, this theater is the center of the film universe for our city. And within minutes of taking my job, people would ask, what are you going to do, Tom? Come on, what are you going to do about the Cinerama? And that led to these conversations with the Paul Allen Estate, which went well. But along the way, what I came to appreciate even more is just the role of film in general in our city. And how we also have the syndrome where you'll be wonderful movies that on the screen are based in Seattle, but are filmed somewhere else. They're filmed in Vancouver or Alabama. And I've really come to better understand what role we could play to help steward the film industry. And then also, reaching out to leaders in the community to find out what they think about the role of this theater. And like you were just saying, you were the first to reach out to me about anything having to do with Cinerama. And that was helpful as well. So all of this was very informative and also very encouraging as we continue to have these conversations. Could we acquire it? And once we did, how could we, operate it? And what role would it play within the context of SIFF's work in general? And that led to lots of conversations internally. There was immediate excitement among board members, among certain staff, that we brought into the fold to have these, confidential conversations about the future of the Cinerama. And we learned a lot. I think the biggest lesson was how important she is to the city. And that was probably the primary motivation for me. If it had just been any other theater, I don't think you and I would be sitting down together right now. This is something that we want to restore really bring it to the lifeblood of the city again.
So, what are your thoughts right now as you work on potentially getting reopened? What's the timeline for that? What's it going to take to get this theater reopened? Like it looks good, but people need to run it. And I'm sure there's a lot of other technical things that go into getting it going. So, what are your thoughts?
We're working on those things right now, and so what does that mean? It means finalizing the staffing plan. What are the menu items going to be in the front of house? Beginning negotiations for exhibiting films. What is our opening night going to be? We think that's going to be this fall. We don't have a date yet, nor do we know what the first film will be that we'll be showing. And we have a lot of experience running cinemas. That's what we've been doing for a long time. So a lot of those lessons, a lot of that experience applies here. At the same time, this is a special place, plays a special role in the community. So how do we understand that, and how do we make the Cinerama experience as impactful as possible moving forward? So we have a task force inside SIFF that's working on the different dimensions of it, from the technical, the operational, from the food to the programming, as well as the financial modeling as well. So we believe that'll come to a head to celebrate sometime this fall.
It'll include chocolate popcorn.
As I've been quoted, I think I have to leave the state of Washington if I don't deliver on that.
Yeah. I'll insist. We'll make that a new rule.
Some sort of ordinance, right?
Some sort of ordinance. What are the opportunities? Because Cinerama is unique, also in terms of its location. It's right in the heart of Belltown, very, very close to the core downtown neighborhood. What are some of the opportunities for community partnership and activation that come with having this theater in nonprofit ownership for the first time?
Yeah, so our mission is really based on getting film to play a larger role in your life. And the premise there is that film makes lives better, just like art makes lives better. So then if you buy that notion, then you've got a lot of work to do. And part of that work is connecting to the community to find out what their needs are. Based on the experiences we've had, there'll be opportunities for nonprofits to connect with us and use the facility. We're keenly interested in working with nearby schools and getting students have that theater experience. It's much more impactful than what you can get on your phone. And also working with local businesses. There'll be an audience coming into the Cinerama that we would like them to make sure they consider going out into the city. What do they do before they watch the film? What do they do afterwards? And having relationships with local businesses to leverage that. At the same time, other businesses around us, what they could be doing to send folks our way as well. So really kind of a bilateral approach to activation downtown. And I think part of the answer is also a bit of X factor. We're in a new location. What should we do? What can we do? And doing that ascertainment work. Talking to elected officials, talking to business leaders, nonprofit leaders. There's a big part of the canvas here that we can still paint. And so what can we be doing together? It's a good question.
Yeah, it's really going to be great to explore those opportunities, because I do think one of the most interesting things is going to be the pivot of this theater being, basically, as we can see, it was maintained gorgeously by Paul Allen, essentially as a hobby, for Paul to maintain this place that he had a really great affinity for. I feel like there's a scalability to moving this into the realm where it's part of like an organic, living, mission-driven nonprofit. makes it possible for the impact to spill out a little bit more than under the previous ownership model.
Yeah, I think that's right. This enables us to have the fancy phrase I've come up with is this is a cathedral cinema in the middle of our city, and there's a particular role it can play to really advance the development of filmmaking, to really advance connecting people who may not be seeing certain films, getting those films into their lives, and playing a role in making a more vibrant downtown. This will be our flagship. This will be when people think about film in Seattle, tourists coming from all over the world. This will be a go-to place to see films. The screen in here, as you can tell, Councilmember, is just huge. And it's extremely comfortable. Paul Allen had a vision to reduce the number of seats to actually make it much more comfortable. This will be a place to fully enjoy what that filmmaker intends you to see, feel, and understand coming off that screen. The best one in the city, in my view. So we'll be cinema proud here in downtown Seattle, and we're excited about playing that role.
What's the single most interesting new fact, or a single interesting new fact that you've learned about the Cinerama from going through this process that the general public might not be privy to, but that you've learned from picking all the rocks up to go through the process of acquiring it?
Well, aside from really being so impressed by the extent to which this cinema played such an important role in so many people's lives over so many years, that has been, for me, as I said before, the most encouraging motivator to develop this further. I think for me to learning this Cinerama technology, what actually was it, that was created in the early 60s. There's a handful of films still out there. I didn't realize that to play that 3-projector Cinerama movie, like How the West Was Won, like Lawrence of Arabia, that it takes not only 3 special projectors, but it takes a special screen, and that screen it needs to be installed, and it's actually a set of vertical strips that enables the 3 projectors to converge on the screen. And I hadn't understood the nature of that technology, and for it to be developed in the early 60s, that was way cool technology to be developed back then. The other thing I learned is how the strategy to bring people back to the cinema in the early 60s was really driven by the studios, really worried about the television in people's living rooms. This Cinerama was created as a technology to compete against people spending more time with more TVs and more living rooms, as a way to get them back into the cinema. But that didn't really last all that long. But what did remain was the construction of Cinerama theaters with amazing attributes. A huge, curvy, tall, wide screen. There's only 3 left in the world. Here in Seattle is the only operating Cinerama theater. There's one in Los Angeles and one in London. So it's not just the connection people have had to Cinerama as a film format. It's really the nature of the design that was put into projecting Cinerama films, and what was left behind was an extraordinarily wonderful film experience, regardless of projector format.
One thing that I found really interesting, an echo of what you mentioned, is the same way studios were concerned about potentially competing with television.
Yeah.
We're sort of at a very similar moment. Mm-hmm. We're coming out of a shutdown where people really, really ensconce themselves into their streaming services.
Right.
It's not clear that people want to go back to congregate experiences like being in a movie theater. And what I think is really unique about this place and the Cinerama is the amount of investment that has gone in from Paul Allen to make it a very unique, comfortable, and distinctive cinema experience. It's not like any other movie theater. And I do think going forward, the movie experiences that people are going to seek out if you're competing in a marketplace with screening and everything else. And Hollywood movies now that have very truncated studio runs because they want to get on streaming, you know.
That's right.
But to be Oscar eligible, they need to be in a theater, you know, for like a weekend or whatever. But then it's really about getting on a streaming platform. I think it'll be interesting to have Cinerama opening again because I do think people are still going to want to have very experience-driven cinema experiences that Cinerama can deliver in a way that other theaters really aren't positioned to.
Yeah, in my former career at KXP, there too, dealing with 100-year-old technology, playing music on a radio station. And when I started there, I think we had 20, 30,000 people a week, tuning in. But with differentiation and really understanding that it's more about pursuing this mission as opposed to just playing records, that's what's attractive to the community, that it's more than just putting films on the screen. It's the fact that SIFF is being a champion of film in this community. People connect with that. And it's not either or. It's, I think people will continue to use their phones, continue to use their amazing screens at home to see film. But you can't replicate this experience on a phone. People still want to go out. They still want to go get a dinner and a movie. Still want to go out with friends and experiencing something together. And there's no better theater than SIFF theaters for that. We've started a program a little while ago called the SIFF Movie Club. A really simple idea, and that was based on the notion of, how when you leave the theater and those conversations that take place in the lobby, many of them between people who have never met each other. So we built on that, and there's this movie club we developed with the Queen Anne Beer Hall, where once a month we play an iconic movie and invite all the theater goers to walk a few blocks over to the beer hall and have a conversation. You don't get that on your phone. You don't get that in your living room. So our job is to differentiate and not only make the theater experience extraordinary, but the community experience extraordinary as well. One thing I've learned in my career, people love to experience amazing things, but people also have a need to share those experiences with others. Music concerts are coming back. People are coming back to the cinema. The first quarter of this year was 57% higher in attendance than last year's first quarter. So people are coming back. So I think the movie theater is going to continue playing a role, but we have to do it within the context of the changing marketplace. We just can't remain anchored without regard to what's happening in the marketplace. So that means differentiation. That means giving people what they can't get otherwise. And that's our role. That's our mission, to get these films into people's lives.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good note. That's a really good note to end on. I have really appreciated the opportunity to come in here, talk a little bit about this, and just get ready for what the next steps entail for this institution and what this institution can be for the city of Seattle and on a micro level for the Belltown and downtown neighborhoods and for cinema lovers worldwide. So absolutely. And let me also say that in my journey as the new person coming to SIFF as its executive director, being able to sit down with our council member and think through some of these things and getting your counsel on it as well, that was super helpful to get us to this point of being able to acquire the Cinerama. So thank you. Yeah, of course, anytime.
Okay.
All right.